The Vitrified city. What lies beneath the Amazon? In 1979, a Brazilian mining company conducting geological surveys in the remote Acre region of the western Amazon detected something impossible: a radiation signature 400 feet below the rainforest floor. Not a small anomaly, not background radiation from natural uranium deposits. A massive signature indicating processed radioactive materials spread across an area of approximately 2 square miles. The mining company, Empresa Mineradora do Acre, immediately contacted Brazil's nuclear regulatory agency. A team was dispatched to investigate. What they found would be classified for the next 30 years and would fundamentally challenge our understanding of human history. Beneath 400 feet of sediment, soil, and rainforest growth, there's a city, not a village, not a settlement, a city, with structures, roads, organized architecture spread across 2 square miles. And it's all vitrified, turned to glass. The entire city appears to have been subjected to heat so intense it melted stone, fused sand into glass, and left a radiation signature that persists 45 years after discovery and possibly thousands of years after whatever created it. This is the story of what's buried beneath the Amazon, a city that shouldn't exist, evidence of technology that predates known civilization by millennia, and a mystery that governments have spent decades trying to suppress, study, and ultimately understand. Because if the vitrified city is what some researchers believe it to be, then human history isn't what we think it is. And nuclear technology isn't a 20th century invention. It's something we rediscovered, something we used before, something that destroyed an entire civilization and left only glass and radiation as evidence. The Amazon rainforest is not pristine wilderness. This is a relatively recent scientific understanding, but it's revolutionized archaeology. For decades, researchers assumed the Amazon was too harsh for large civilizations. The soil is poor. The jungle is impenetrable. Any structures would be quickly consumed by vegetation. But in the past 20 years, using LiDAR technology that can see through forest canopy, archaeologists have discovered something extraordinary. The Amazon is filled with evidence of massive pre-Columbian civilizations. Earthworks, roads, agricultural terraces, settlements that housed tens of thousands of people. These weren't primitive villages. They were sophisticated urban centers with advanced agriculture, organized society, and engineering capabilities that rival anything in the ancient world. Most of these discoveries are in the eastern and central Amazon, but the western Amazon, particularly the Acre region near the borders with Peru and Bolivia, remains largely unexplored. The jungle is denser there. The terrain is more difficult. Archaeological surveys are rare. Which is why nobody was looking for ancient cities when Empresa Mineradora do Acre did their geological survey in 1979. They were looking for mineral deposits, copper, iron, possibly gold. What they found instead was a radiation signature that made no geological sense. Natural uranium deposits produce specific radiation patterns. This wasn't that. This was processed material, isotopes that don't occur naturally, radiation signatures that indicate human manipulation of nuclear materials. The mining company's geologist, Dr. Marco Silva, wrote in his initial report, "Radiation detected at coordinates redacted shows signature consistent with spent nuclear fuel or weapons-grade plutonium. This is impossible. There are no nuclear facilities within 1,000 miles of this location. No industrial activity that could explain these readings. Recommend immediate investigation by nuclear authorities. Whatever is buried here poses potential environmental and health risk." The Brazilian Nuclear Regulatory Agency, Comissão Nacional de Energia Nuclear (CNEN), sent a team within 2 weeks. What the CNN team found was so unexpected that the lead investigator, Dr. Helena Cardoso, initially refused to file a report. She thought her instruments were malfunctioning. She ran every test multiple times. She brought in additional equipment. She verified and re-verified. The readings were consistent and impossible. From Dr. Cardoso's classified report, declassified in 2009. Ground-penetrating radar reveals structured anomalies 320 feet below surface. Anomalies appear to be artificial, geometric patterns, rectangular formations, linear features suggesting roads or walls. Excavation of test shaft to 400-foot depth reveals vitrified layer. Material is fused silica, sand and stone that has been melted and resolidified. Temperature required to produce this vitrification. Minimum 700 degrees C, possibly as high as 3000 degrees C. No known natural process produces vitrification at this depth and scale. Forest fires don't reach these temperatures. Volcanic activity would leave different geological signatures, and there is no volcanic activity in this region. Most concerning, vitrified materials show embedded radioactive particles. Analysis indicates isotopes of cesium-137, strontium-90, and traces of plutonium-239. These isotopes are products of nuclear fission. They do not occur naturally. Preliminary conclusion: the vitrified layer was created by exposure to extreme heat and nuclear radiation. The only known process that produces this combination of effects is nuclear detonation. This conclusion is impossible to reconcile with known history. Recommend expanded investigation. The Brazilian government authorized that expanded investigation, and then immediately classified everything about it. Between 1980 and 1985, a secret archaeological and scientific project operated in the Acre region. The project involved Brazilian scientists, geologists, archaeologists, and nuclear specialists. Later, international researchers were brought in quietly, without public announcement, including experts from the United States, France, and the Soviet Union. The Cold War was still ongoing. The US and USSR were enemies, but they cooperated on this project because what was being discovered in the Amazon transcended geopolitics. The excavation revealed the vitrified city in layers. At 400 feet depth, they found the upper structures, buildings, walls, what appeared to be a plaza or central square, all vitrified, all showing the same radiation signature. At 450 feet, they found the lower city, foundations, underground chambers, what might have been storage facilities or ceremonial spaces. At 500 feet, they hit undisturbed bedrock. The city was approximately 100 feet tall, a massive urban structure buried under 400 feet of accumulated sediment and jungle growth. Carbon dating of organic materials found in the sediment layers above the city suggested the vitrification event occurred between 10,000 and 12,000 years ago. This would place it in the late Pleistocene era, before the rise of Sumerian cities, before Egyptian pyramids, before any known civilization developed writing or metallurgy. But the city's construction suggested advanced technology. The buildings were made of precisely cut stone blocks, some weighing several tons, fitted together with minimal gaps. The roads were paved with stones arranged in complex geometric patterns. The underground chambers had ventilation systems, shafts that would have allowed air circulation even at great depth. This level of engineering predates known civilization by thousands of years. And then there was the vitrification itself. Vitrification, the process of turning material into glass through extreme heat, is rare in archaeological contexts. It does occur naturally in places hit by lightning or exposed to volcanic heat, but this vitrification was different. It was uniform. The entire city had been exposed to the same intense heat at the same time. not a gradual process, not localized events. A single catastrophic exposure to heat so extreme it melted stone across 2 square miles. Dr. James Morrison, an American nuclear physicist who examined the site in 1982, wrote in his classified report, "The vitrification pattern is consistent with aerial burst of high-energy explosive device. Ground zero appears to be approximately 500 meters above the city center. Blast pattern indicates explosion yield of 1520 kilotons, equivalent to Hiroshima bomb. This interpretation is supported by radiation signature. Isotopes present: cesium-137, strontium-90, plutonium-239 are fission products. They are created when uranium or plutonium undergoes nuclear fission. The distribution pattern of these isotopes matches nuclear weapons testing data. Higher concentrations at ground zero, decreasing with distance, specific ratio of isotopes consistent with plutonium-based device." I must emphasize, I am not claiming a nuclear weapon was detonated over this city 12,000 years ago. I am stating that the physical evidence is indistinguishable from such an event. Any alternative explanation must account for 1. Extreme heat, 700-3000 degrees C, applied uniformly across large area. 2. Presence of fission product isotopes that don't occur naturally. 3. Blast pattern indicating aerial detonation. 4. Radiation signature, matching known nuclear events. I have no alternative explanation that fits this data. Morrison's report was classified at a level above top secret. Only a handful of people saw it, and Morrison himself was required to sign non-disclosure agreements that prevented him from discussing his findings for 25 years. The excavation continued through the 1980s. Researchers mapped the city's layout, analyzed the vitrified materials, measured radiation levels, and tried to understand what they'd found. They discovered that the city had a population center, an area with denser structures, suggesting higher occupation. They found what appeared to be administrative buildings, residential areas, possibly temples or ceremonial centers. They also found something deeply unsettling: human remains. The bodies were vitrified too, turned to glass in the moment of whatever catastrophe destroyed the city, frozen in positions suggesting they were going about daily activities when it happened: walking, working, perhaps fleeing. Analysis of the vitrified remains was limited. Glass doesn't preserve DNA well, and the radiation made biological analysis difficult. But anthropologists could determine basic information. These were anatomically modern humans, similar in size and proportion to contemporary indigenous Amazonian populations. They were people, living in a sophisticated city, 12,000 years ago, and they were killed in an instant by something that produced nuclear-level heat and radiation. One discovery was particularly chilling. In what researchers identified as possibly a library or records building, they found vitrified tablets. Not clay tablets like Mesopotamian cuneiform. These were stone tablets, inscribed with symbols, then vitrified by the blast. The symbols didn't match any known writing system, not hieroglyphs, not cuneiform, not any script in the archaeological record. They appeared to be a unique written language that predated all known writing by at least 7,000 years. Dr. Sarah Chen, a linguist brought in to analyze the tablets in 1984, wrote, "The symbols show characteristics of true writing: repeated patterns, syntactic structure, apparent grammar. This is not decorative art or proto-writing. This is a fully developed written language." If this dating is correct, this civilization had writing millennia before Sumer, before Egypt, before any known literate culture. This alone would revolutionize our understanding of human development. But we cannot read it. The language is isolate, no connection to any known language family. Without a bilingual text or extensive corpus, decipherment may be impossible. We have evidence of advanced civilization, urban planning, engineering, and literacy from 12,000 years ago, and we cannot tell their story because we cannot read their words. They were erased by whatever destroyed their city, and we found them too late. In 1986, the excavation was quietly shut down. The official reason given in internal documents: funding constraints and lack of significant new discoveries. The site was sealed, covered with soil, and left to the jungle. But researchers who worked on the project tell a different story. They say the excavation was shut down because of what they found in the deepest chambers of the city. From an interview with Dr. Helena Cardoso, conducted in 2015 after most classification restrictions expired. In 1985, we excavated a chamber at the lowest level of the city. It was sealed differently from other chambers: multiple doors, complex locking mechanisms, walls lined with lead. When we opened it, radiation detectors went crazy. The chamber contained what appeared to be storage containers made of metal alloy we couldn't identify. The containers were intact despite the vitrification event. Inside the containers were, I don't know what to call them, spheres, approximately 30 centimeters in diameter, made of the same unknown alloy, and they were emitting radiation, not background radiation but active emissions suggesting ongoing nuclear reaction. The spheres were hot, not from the ancient blast actively generating heat. After 12,000 years, they were still functioning. We didn't understand what they were: power sources, weapons, some kind of reactor core. We couldn't open them without risking radiation exposure. We couldn't transport them without specialized shielding. And then the decision came from Brasilia: seal everything, stop excavation, bury it all again. I think the government was terrified. If these spheres were still active after 12,000 years, what were they? Who built them? And why did a civilization with this technology get destroyed in what appeared to be a nuclear blast? The chamber was sealed. The excavation was filled in. The jungle reclaimed the site. For 30 years, the vitrified city remained buried and forgotten. But something was still happening beneath the Amazon. In the 1990s, indigenous communities in the Acre region started reporting strange occurrences: animals avoiding certain areas, hunters becoming sick after visiting specific parts of the jungle, streams showing unusual discoloration. In 2003, a Brazilian environmental agency investigating reports of contaminated water found elevated radiation levels in a stream approximately 3 miles from the sealed excavation site. The radiation was low, not immediately dangerous, but it was higher than background levels and it was spreading. Whatever was buried beneath the jungle was leaking. In 2008, satellite thermal imaging detected a heat signature in the same region. The ground temperature was 57 degrees Celsius higher than surrounding areas. No volcanic activity, no geothermal vents, just heat rising from 400 feet underground. The Brazilian government quietly reopened scientific monitoring of the site. They didn't resume excavation, but they installed radiation sensors, thermal monitors, seismic detectors. They began tracking whether the underground city was becoming more active. The monitoring data, partially declassified in 2020, is concerning. The heat signature is growing, slowly, an increase of about 0.1 degrees C per year, but consistently. The radiation levels are increasing too, and seismic sensors have detected what researchers describe as vibrations deep underground, not earthquakes but regular pulses like machinery operating. Whatever those spheres were, they're still active, still generating heat and radiation, and after 12,000 years of burial, they seem to be increasing their activity. In 2019, an international team of researchers, operating with Brazilian government permission but under strict classification, used advanced ground-penetrating radar to map the entire vitrified city without excavating. The new scans revealed something previous surveys had missed. The city is much larger than originally thought. The visible ruins represent only the central district. Extending outward for miles are additional structures, roads, agricultural terraces. At its peak, the city may have housed 50,000 people. This would make it larger than any known city from that time period, larger than early Sumerian cities, larger than anything that should have existed 12,000 years ago. The scans also revealed another disturbing detail. There are other vitrified sites nearby. Smaller settlements, also turned to glass, also showing radiation signatures, as if whatever destroyed the main city also destroyed the surrounding region. Dr. Robert Hansen, who led the 2019 survey, wrote in his report, "We are looking at evidence of a regional catastrophe. Not a single city destroyed, but an entire civilization. Multiple sites vitrified simultaneously or in rapid succession. Radiation patterns suggesting multiple detonation points. This was not an accident. This was not a natural disaster. This appears to have been warfare conducted with nuclear-level weapons 12,000 years ago. The implications are staggering. Either our understanding of human technological development is fundamentally wrong, or we are looking at evidence of a previous advanced civilization that destroyed itself and was forgotten. The second possibility is more terrifying, because it suggests nuclear technology is not unique to our era. It suggests that humans or someone developed these weapons before, used them, and the knowledge was lost when the civilization collapsed. And if it happened before, it can happen again. The Brazilian government has not publicly acknowledged the vitrified city's existence. When asked about radiation in the Acre region, they attribute it to natural uranium deposits. When asked about archaeological sites, they mention ongoing research into pre-Columbian cultures but provide no specifics. But the classification levels on documents related to the site have been steadily increasing. What was confidential in the 1980s became secret in the 1990s and top secret by 2010. The most recent documents are classified above top secret, accessible only to the president and a handful of military and scientific advisors. Why the increasing secrecy? Researchers who have worked on the project suggest two reasons. First, the implications for human history. If a civilization with nuclear technology existed 12,000 years ago and destroyed itself, it rewrites everything we know about human development. It suggests we've been through this cycle before. Advancement, weapons development, catastrophic war, collapse back to primitive conditions. Second, the active spheres. If those devices are still functioning after 12,000 years, they represent technology beyond our current capabilities. Our nuclear reactors last decades. These have lasted millennia. Understanding how they work could revolutionize energy production. But it could also be weaponized. If someone learns how the ancient civilization created nuclear weapons, they could recreate them. If someone accesses those spheres and reverse engineers them, they gain technology that current nuclear powers don't possess. So Brazil keeps it secret, monitors it quietly, prevents access, and hopes the jungle keeps the vitrified city buried. There's one more piece to this story, one that suggests the Amazon site might not be unique. In 1947, archaeologist David Davenport investigated the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro in Pakistan, a city from the Indus Valley civilization that flourished around 2600 BCE. Davenport found evidence of vitrification at the site: melted pottery, fused stone, black glass fragments. He also found what he described as blast shadows, outlines of bodies preserved in stone, similar to the shadows left by victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Davenport's theory, dismissed by mainstream archaeology, was that Mohenjo-Daro was destroyed by an ancient nuclear blast. His evidence: vitrification, radiation anomalies, though much weaker than in the Amazon, and blast patterns suggesting aerial detonation. Other sites around the world show similar evidence: vitrified forts in Scotland, melted stone structures in the Sahara, ancient ruins with unexplained vitrification from India to South America. Most archaeologists attribute these to natural causes: lightning strikes, intense fires. But researchers familiar with the Amazon site wonder if there's a pattern, if vitrification at archaeological sites might indicate something more than random natural events. Perhaps ancient nuclear weapons weren't a one-time anomaly. Perhaps multiple ancient civilizations achieved nuclear technology. Perhaps the cycle of advancement and destruction has repeated several times across human history. And perhaps we're in that cycle again, with 13,000 nuclear weapons currently in global arsenals, with rising geopolitical tensions, with the same technological trajectory that seems to end the same way, in vitrified ruins and radioactive shadows. The Amazon vitrified city remains buried. The Brazilian government continues monitoring. The radiation levels continue rising slowly. The heat signature grows warmer year by year. And deep beneath the jungle floor, in a lead-lined chamber that survived 12,000 years of burial, those spheres continue operating, generating power from technology we don't understand, doing whatever they were designed to do for a civilization that no longer exists. Researchers estimate that if current trends continue, the sphere's heat output will become significant enough to affect the surface environment within 5,100 years. The jungle directly above the site may start dying as underground heat increases. The radiation may reach levels that pose health risks to indigenous communities in the region. At that point, Brazil will face an impossible choice: excavate the site to neutralize the spheres, risking exposure to technology we can't control, or evacuate the region and let the ancient city slowly cook itself and the jungle above it. Either way, the secret will become public. The world will learn that an advanced civilization existed 12,000 years ago, that they had writing, engineering, and nuclear technology, and that they destroyed themselves so thoroughly that they were buried and forgotten. We found their city by accident. We can barely understand what they built. We certainly can't read what they wrote. But we can see how they died, in an instant of heat and radiation that turned their city to glass and left shadows of their final moments preserved for 12,000 years. The vitrified city is evidence of one of two possibilities. Either nuclear technology is not unique to modern humans, and we're rediscovering capabilities that previous civilizations achieved and lost. Or something else, something not human, built that city and destroyed it, and we're finding evidence of visitors or predecessors we don't understand. Neither possibility is comforting. Both suggest that what happened to them could happen to us. Deep beneath the Amazon, a city of glass waits. Its people are gone. Its language is unreadable. Its technology still functions after 12 millennia of burial. And somewhere in those vitrified ruins, in symbols we cannot read, might be their final message to whoever found them. We thought we were advanced. We thought we were safe. We were wrong. Don't repeat our mistake.